Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing good. Just wanted to give a little update. As you can see, the concrete now is on the floor in my basement. So I just want to talk a little bit about how cold you can pour in and kind of my experience when I was pouring, because I poured in cold weather, and how it relates specifically to ICFs. So I'm in a basement, it's all ICF walls, 8-inch thick, and it's pretty much all backfilled. I'd say it's like 85–90% backfilled. So the temperature outside going into this, it got really cold. So all the temperatures I'll give will be in Fahrenheit. But I poured on a Saturday, and the Thursday and Friday leading into that Saturday got really cold. So the lows at night were in the single digits, and the night before the pour, that Friday night, it got down to about 7–8 degrees, and we ran the heater in here all night to keep it warm, but we only got it to probably about 50 degrees in here whenever we actually started pouring on Saturday morning. So when we started pouring, it was probably only about 9 degrees outside, and we were actually having problems with things on the concrete trucks freezing up. So there are problems once you go outside. However, in here, the concrete worked pretty good as far as pouring it in here. As you can see, these are the only openings here, and all I got is like sheets of plastic on them to keep the air from just blowing in and out. So when we actually poured, we got a conveyor truck, and it went all the way to the back and then just dropped the concrete down. It wasn't easy, but it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be either. So laying the concrete down was pretty easy. It really didn't take us that much time at all. It was probably less than 2 hours to get it down, get it screeded. And then kind of the issue was the temperature once we put the concrete in, the concrete started to cure a little bit, and the temperature settled in here, and we really didn't have a heater inside of here. And the temperature outside was around 20 degrees. So the temperature of the concrete wanted to stay, upper 40s, 50 degrees, which is fine, for curing. They say that's a nice slow cure. However, when you're waiting to finish it, that's a nightmare, because first of all, the back is slightly warmer than the front as far as the concrete was concerned. The walls are the same temperature, but as far as the poured concrete, in the back it was definitely warmer than up by the door, and that makes sense because there's all that cold air right outside of the sheet, sucking that heat out of it. So the concrete up in the front was in the upper, it was like in the 40s, so it was taking forever for it to cure. And by no means was it successful. At that night, overnight when I wasn't out here all night, it could have froze at the end here. There could be a lot of cracking issues, stuff like that. So I'll definitely do a follow-up. I also poured some concrete outside. So I have heard some people say, like, you can pour concrete and the first night it'll generate its own heat, and you really don't have to worry about it. It's, the first night, because it can generate its own heat. But that's not true. It can generate its own heat, that is true. And how much heat, I don't know exactly, but it can produce a nice little amount of heat as it's curing. However, we did pour some concrete outside that was left over. I just wanted to see what was gonna happen. And within an hour or two, it was rock solid and frozen. And I did temperature on it, and it was like 19 degrees was the temperature of the concrete, so it was frozen solid. So obviously, concrete can't cure, I would say, much below 20 degrees. And probably higher than that. It might be 28 degrees or something like that. But the concrete we poured outside froze pretty fast. What I'm gonna do later on too is, after it actually has some weather to actually cure in, I'll probably go out with like a hammer and just see how easily it breaks up, because it'll be completely frozen, and then it'll thaw out, and I really don't know what happens. I don't know if it actually cures or if it just kind of crumbles apart or what. But the pour, though, it went good for our conditions. Like I said, it was hard to work in. It was a pain in the ass for the person that was finishing it because there was just a lot of extra stress because first of all, I didn't lay it up right. So we poured the back first. Going back, 2020 hindsight, I probably would have poured the concrete in the front first, and then just, so it could have just laid down and got going, because when we worked our way out, this front was already the slowest piece anyways. And I used those screed channels as I showed before, and I probably should have ran them the complete opposite direction so we could have worked our way out the door. That's, once again, that's like rookie mistakes. But overall, I think it turned out really good. I mean, we did this ourselves. We just had somebody that does concrete. Now, they don't do, the person that helped us, they're not like into the coloring or even like, where you have the foam and everything under it. They do more like large slabs for like warehouses, stuff like that. So this is a little bit different for them. So, but I think it turned out really good for us doing this. Unfortunately, when you do it in the basement, there's just nowhere for anybody else to kind of work and help. So if you don't have like the boards to slide around on, it can take a lot of time because only one person can kind of go around the edges. But it did cure, and it did do nice. So once I could walk on it that night, I stayed up all night Saturday, and I kept this heater going, and I kept it going about full blast until I couldn't stay up anymore. And when I couldn't stay up anymore, it was probably 3 a.m. and it was about 58 degrees in here. And then I've been running this heater on low ever since then, and it really has stayed right about 58 degrees. I can show the temperatures here, but you can see here's the front up here by the door. It's like 57 degrees. And then back here in the back, it's usually actually just a little bit warmer, or I'm sorry, colder here in the back. So here's this. And you can see it's like probably 57. So it's kind of hovering right around that. And it doesn't really matter if I run this heater full blast per se, or, low. It's staying right around the mid 50s for sure. And I think there's, reasonings behind that. So now that we have this slab in here, this slab is absorbing a lot of the heat. Well, the heat's really going, the hot air is really going up into the rafters, and a lot of it's getting lost through the wood, because all I have is a subfloor above this. So a lot of the heat's getting lost through the subfloor going up. But any of the radiant heat that's going around is absorbing into the concrete. And the walls now, since everything's pretty well closed up, they want to stay about 55 anyways. So it doesn't really matter what happens outside too much, or how much heat. Now I'm sure if I ran the heater full blast for like a whole, for a while, eventually it's going to heat up, and then it's going to be hard to bring it down. I assume it will slowly go down the temperature. But anybody out there that's thinking about pouring in cold temperatures, you can do it in ICF houses. They work out nice, but it did not work out how I thought it was going to work out either. I thought since everything was foam in here and the concrete being in a nice, foam shell with the air temperature in here, above 50, I thought it would cure faster than what it did. And yeah, it did not cure fast at all. I know the sunlight has something to do with that. There's no sunlight hitting the concrete, but either way, it makes for a slow cure. Maybe you can raise the temperature up to like 80 degrees or something in here and speed that up. But even at 50 degrees, 55 degrees in here, it still took until 11 o'clock at night to finish. And honestly, we probably could have stayed out here a little bit longer than that. But at that point, it was kind of like, all right, good enough. We're running out of lights and batteries and stuff. So this is it. So I'm happy. Want to give everybody an update. Hope everyone's doing well. I will be milling soon. I keep saying that, but it's getting close to that time. So with that, hope everyone has a good day.